What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Matty P here with a live episode. That's right, a live episode. It has been a little while, as Jess says in the live chat. It's been a little while since I've been able to go live. I'm going to explain all that at the moment. But on today's show, we're going to talk about all things updating on the Steelers training camp so far. What are things I like? What are the things we're hearing out of camp? Do we need to take, training camp with a pinch of salt as well? That's not trying to be something I've sort of been observing for a little while. Welcome, George Teston. Welcome, or George T. But yeah, it's sort of been an interesting time. And for the Steelers, it's summertime in America. People are chilling out. For this TDU, live members out there, and for the Steelers subscribers of the channel, look, it's just like it's been something I had a kid. Yeah, it's been a little crazy in my part of the world. And I've sort of said in a few comments to a few people that have been checking in on me, all will be revealed. Cut a long story short, about 2 and a bit months ago, I got approached by a company in my industry to go join them. And that was a pretty long process to go through that. At the same time, this is the time of year in my day job that I run a global project that spans Europe, America, and the Southern Hemisphere each year. And we expanded the number of countries we did that project in. And so that fell in July at the same time. So I was doing a bit of travel as well. So it's been a really crazy July for me, to the point that I thought the last time we did a live was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And when I looked in and saw that the 5th of July, almost a month, I actually was in shock. But I promise that we'll try and get back to the usual schedule of things. At the same time, though, it's been a really good time. I finished up with my old job, start my new job soon. So that's exciting for me outside of the Steelers world. Yes, I know. I've had also in the background of all of this, I have had my iPhone have huge problems, and I had to replace the battery. And then when I went there, then they broke the screen, and so I had an argument with Apple on that one. So I've had let's just say it's been interesting, and I've had actually some family stuff. One of my family members has family members have been pretty ill as well. So things have just been a little bit absolutely nuts at the moment. But yes, Marky, yeah, I'll be messaging you after this. It has been crazy. But yes, it is some interesting weeks coming up for the Steelers. But I got a lot of things I want to talk about in today's show, because it's been a little while since I've done a live. The other thing too is the other thing is Shannon and I have been obviously rolling out our Global Steelers Global Perspective content. That's been going pretty good. But we've had lots of changes in our times, which means that I've been spending a lot of the weekend when I usually try and do a live, cutting stuff up. So anyway, yeah, I'm bouncing back. I've also been a little bit unwell. It's just been I'll just say it's just been a crazy time. At least it happened in July, not during the season. But let's just say I am pumped to go over and watch a Steelers game in September. I can't wait to get I can't wait to get some vacation out there, some vacation time, and to hopefully meet some of the American fans of this channel, this show, or of Marky the show on Steel Nation Australia. Yeah. So, well, let's talk about. Let's just get straight into it. I'm not going I've got a few things I want to cover off today, but we'll crack it straight into it. Obviously, we've seen a lot of Justin Fields at QB1 with Russell Wilson's injury. Heard Russell Wilson on Steelers Training Camp Insider Live, whatever terminology they're using, on NFL Network today. That was kind of interesting to sort of hear what he was doing. You've sort of seen him over the last couple of days do a bit of 7-on-7, 11-on-11, but they've kept him careful, sort of clean with the Friday night practice. This is going to be really interesting. It also, like, a lot of the Steelers players are not talking about it right now, like who they're going with. Mike Tomlin did say to, I think it was Kay Adams on the interview he did today, that Russell Wilson has the inside running on the position. Of course, he's the veteran. He's the guy with Super Bowls. He's the guy they brought in that they wanted to. They brought him in before Fields. He fits the Arthur Smith offense probably even more than Fields does. Fields can open up a new element of the well, this is like, we'll talk about that too. I want to talk about Van Jefferson, because let me just say I'm not surprised by what's going on. I'm surprised how early it's happening, but I'm not surprised by what's going on. But yeah, back to Justin Fields. Mike Tomlin said that he wanted. Kay Adams said, "What is the thing you find you're telling him the most?" And his thing was that the Justin Fields to not limit his creativity. And one of the big things that has been a challenge with Justin Fields in many respects by a lot of people that that the criticism of him is that some of the things that he does instinctually, doesn't read the play, all these sorts of things. But the reality is for him is that like he has got to actually leverage that God-given talent, but do it in a way that doesn't compromise the football. And that by that I mean fumbling the football, protecting the football, not trying to do too much. You don't have to save everything all the time. So these are some of the things that he's working through, but every player works through that. I mean, Ben, how much did it frustrate a lot of Steel fans where at the end of a half, Ben would throw an interception when they could have just rolled, like just kick the field goal, roll out with the 3 points, right? Like you don't have to go for it all the time. So it's not a surprise that this is something that Tomlin's saying to him. I mean, it is a bit of a diplomatic answer, and we've heard a lot of that over the years in terms of, the plethora of press conferences that Mike Tomlin does. So I'm kind of not surprised on that front. But hang on a sec, my desk is being funny with me. No, it's just going to be funny. Okay, we're going to have a fun show. So it's just going to be interesting to see how Fields goes there against Russell Wilson. But they're going to have packages for Russ. They're going to, for Fields, even if Russ is taking the field, they're going to use him. Jed jokes about wide receiver too. We could see a little bit of it. Like we really, really could. Actually, while I think of it there, because it wasn't on my list of things to talk about, I also found it funny this week that there was a lot of talk. I think it was All Steelers Now, or one of those ones was sort of saying, or Steelers Now with Alan Saunders was saying that they'd seen a lot of Jalen Warren catching like the kickoffs and stuff. I find that so funny, given that what Jalen Warren said about like Justin Fields earlier in the offseason. They kind of absolutely during like the draft show and stuff with Cam Hayward and that. It actually absolutely cracked me up when I heard that a couple of weeks ago. I love what's going on in the chat right now. Ryan says you're bringing yours back. Yeah, cool. We got to collaborate on something. We've got to get that going. That's on me. So that's the field side of things. Let's get to Van Jefferson before I lose that train of thought. I've got so many things I'm keen to talk about. But Van Jefferson, when Van Jefferson was signed, and there's a video back on this channel that got actually like a lot more clicks at the time than I thought, because I didn't think people would be that interested in Van Jefferson, but I'm really keen on him. Van Jefferson is a really good route runner. And Van Jefferson is someone that Mike Tomlin has referred to before when they played the Los Angeles Rams. So when he talked about, when they brought in Van Jefferson, I really wasn't surprised by that. And then when you think about the Arthur Smith offense and the fact that Van Jefferson's had an ability to experience that in Atlanta, obviously Arthur Smith comes in, that plays a part in that. But Arthur Smith would have validated that as well. What did I see from Van Jefferson? But Van Jefferson has had average quarterback play till now while at Atlanta in the Arthur Smith offense. So to have better quarterback play, with whether it's Russell Wilson or whether it's Justin Fields, throwing him the ball as two starting caliber quarterbacks that both on their are better than Justin. It's not Justin Ritter. Whatever his name is, Ritter out of Atlanta. It's going to come Desmond Ritter. That's it. And they're both better than Desmond Ritter is going to make a huge difference in terms of what he's going to be able to produce. And then you've obviously got Calvin Austin vying for things as well. I still think Calvin Austin's your wide receiver 3 if you're looking at a depth chart. But that's not a problem, because what he can do in the slot, what he can do in the deep ball, like that's not, I don't think it's a demotion. I kind of think this is more like a 2A and a 2B scenario. They're probably both realistically, one's a 3 and one's a 2B until proven consistently in some regular season games. But they're starting to get a nice little wide receiver room together. There's a lot of talk about Scotty Miller. He's a great 4th or 5th guy, because the reason that I'm not pegging these guys in these holes, is that Roman Wilson, obviously we've seen him with the ankle strain, sounded like really bad when he did it. People got a lot more realistic on it. Should be a couple of weeks, hopefully hunky-dory, good to go. But he is a rookie, so it may take 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks, to actually see him do something. So my thing is he'll show something if he can get to play before this time, but I do think the time that we will see him do something big will be in one of those New York games. So whether it's against the Giants or the Jets, that's when he's going to do something. Speaking of the Jets, actually, just as an off the side, because the Steelers are playing them, Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin is a really good power back, and he was drafted by the Jets to go there with Breece Hall. That the Steelers better be up for some tackling that game. That is going to be run heavy, even though Rodgers is there. I think they're going to absolutely pound the Rock that game. But I saw Braylon Allen, because I follow him, put something up on Instagram, and he's looking good. So it was just an interesting little nugget for you there. Let's go into the live chat. Also, hit me with a billion questions as well, because I'm doing the live for Q&A. A lot of it. I'm excited for the AFC North Inside Hard Knocks. I think we get it through the International Game Pass subscription, which I've reluctantly decided to do. I don't like DAZN. I call it DAZN. Like, I know it's DAZN, but like DAZN confused. Mind you, the platform is looking a little bit better when I was on it the last couple of days than last year. Yeah, I am. But what I'm not excited for is I don't want this to be a distraction for the Steelers. That's the only thing that, like, we don't have Max streaming service though. I'm sure it'll be there from something else if it's not through the International Game Pass. But I worry about the distraction that is that. However, the Steelers are a veteran-led team. Even the young guys, like Freemuth, Najee Harris, act like most of the. I say Freemuth does. Najee, sometimes shows a little bit of his emotions, but someone that easily shows their emotions on their face, I understand it. But guys like Patrick Queen in there, veteran presence, your Landon Robertses, all those sorts of guys. So my thing is, if the Steelers are winning, it's going to be good. If the Steelers aren't winning, that's where it becomes a problem. And I'd rather sacrifice getting that inside look for the Steelers to win. That's just the way I kind of see it. So yeah, it's kind of like, there's a pro or con with everything in life, I guess. But we'll see. Yeah, so the offense, we're going to dive deeper in offense, because I think the offensive line is something I want to talk about with a major theme of this show. So I'm going to come back to that. You know what? Actually, with your question about her, all right. So Mike Tomlin said, my favorite quote, I'm trying to get one printed actually to go on the wall behind me. My favorite Mike Tomlin quote of all is, "It's not what you're capable of, it's what you're willing to do." I also like the being comfortable in the uncomfortable. But he might have said today my equal third, more my clear third, or my second favorite quote, right? My second favorite quote, which is under my name right now. Minimize the speculation. They asked him why he focuses so much on tackling and backs versus backers, and he said, "I like to minimize the speculation because we've got 90 guys. We need to bring him to 53." Minimize the speculation. I love it. One of the things that you'll have seen to the channel, even though it's been crazy, all the videos, I've not tried to do the daily reports on everything, because a lot of people, one, you're getting hounded from everyone. That's cool. Like, and if people are doing that, like good on them. Like, I also I wouldn't be able to be consistent every single day for you with everything that's been going on, like I said. But we saw so much out of training camp last year, and the Steelers won 3 preseason games, and we all thought it was going to be great. And then the San Francisco 49ers put them on their ass week 1 at home at Heinz Field, or Acrisure for people that want to correct me in the comments. But and it sucked. And so for me, I'm trying to take things with a grain of salt, and I'm trying to minimize the speculation, because also there are Steelers beat reporters out there, I'm telling you, that not everyone, some of them are great, but other ones, they say something about what they saw on tape, and you watch it and you're like, I don't think we were watching the same tape. So I try and take everything with a grain of salt, and I try to minimize the speculation on my own part. And it kind of goes to, the Steelers getting what they want out from training camp. The offensive line is something that Mike Tomlin said is doing really, really well. But you've asked a question about Herbig and Frazier, so I will answer that yet. But the bigger question for me is yesterday I was trying to catch up on a few things with camp that I'd want to talk back on, like some articles I'd saved when I've been busy over the last few weeks, and just reading through things and trying to go back and assess what training camp was like, the start of training camp versus where they are today. And there was an article that was actually on the new writers from BehindTheStillCurtain.com about Broderick Jones. And Broderick Jones hadn't actually hadn't been taking that many reps in camp at left tackle. Now, I don't sit there. I'm not there all day at camp. I'd love that to be validated by someone. I don't know whether I can fully agree with that or not. But you aren't hearing as much about it. You are hearing a lot about Troy at right tackle. Obviously, Troy Fautanu was the first-round draft pick. He is slotting into a starting lineup. That makes absolute complete sense. But there's two things. At first, I read it. I'm like, WTF. no, you can't not start Broderick. Then I'm thinking more about like the whole perception of like Dan Moore getting reps, figuring out where he can play, where he can't. Is he only a backup left tackle? Are you proving it to other teams that he's a left tackle? You should trade for this guy if you have an injury, etc., etc. Is it seeing, has Dan Moore been focusing on playing right with Broderick going to left, and now you're seeing how he can transition back? Is it just that? Because they'd still talked about that a couple of times in the first couple of days of camp, that they like to see people in different positions, like to see where they're able to move different people, get that versatility, get that flexibility, particularly when other people have less availability. A lot of abilities there. But the thing that I thought about was minimize the speculation. Broderick Jones is going to be a left tackle, right? Unless Furtado has a knee, a massive knee injury or some sort of season-defining injury, Broderick Jones is going to be the left tackle. So minimizing speculation is they're just getting Dan Moore reps there. They're just making sure Dan Moore can play there. They're advertising other teams that he can play there. But we'll go to Herbig and Frazier. I just got it before I lose it. I know. I really don't want to pay. Oh, and then also Google has got to like revalidate the AdSense for the channel as well. So live chats aren't coming through if people are doing them, or they doesn't even come up with an option apparently for you at the moment. So that kind of stuffs up. And yeah, Man of Evan Working's a good one. Man of Evan Working's a good one. But I'm liking minimizing speculation because there's a lot of speculation. There's always a lot of speculation in this stage. But anyway, back to Herbig or Frazier. I would love to say that Frazier is the lock. I would hope he is the lock. Maybe the Steelers are playing a little bit of mind game there. I have fears if he's not the guy. They seem pretty heavy on Herbig at the moment. But I think some of this is making sure that they manage Frazier's reps, because it's going to be a long season for Frazier, particularly if the Steelers are able to make the postseason. And they would have seen from what Broderick went through last year to know that, and I think they should have still started Broderick earlier than they wanted to. And then they were said to bring him in the Houston game faster than they wanted to because of the injury. But I do think with it was Dan Moore, I think it was, wasn't it? Or Chooks. But my thing there is that it should be Frazier. He is the best guy for that role. I just think they're probably minimalizing the amount of snaps that he has to take. The other thing too is that while he's learning the Arthur Smith offense and the difference between what he had at West Virginia on that offensive line, reading the Steelers defense and what have you, and the Steelers quarterbacks, particularly Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson, needing to get clean ball to get the offense moving, that may be why they're picking Herbig at this point. But I still sit by what I've said all offseason, is that Herbig, with a $4 million cap saving, particularly because they've restructured Holcomb's contract, we can get to that in a bit. I still do think that there's a chance that Nate Herbig gets moved on. I just do, particularly if McCormick and Anderson are playing well in camp. That's how I see it. The difference in quality is insane. I mean, it's just awesome. We'll talk about Golden. Yeah, so let's talk about Marvin Leal. It's kind of funny. Shannon and I put out a video about the three guys that we think were most cuttable: Loudermilk, Leal, and I think it was Mike Robinson. And then Leal just suddenly started hearing all those reports. Leal's killing it. Now, there was a good report out of the last 2 days of, I think it was mandatory minicamp or OTAs, and that said the same thing. Sorry, I just need a sip of coffee. I meant a really good coffee. It's actually good too. So yeah, I needed to give my voice a break. But so when it comes to Leal, apparently the last couple of days he's had chase down and play. He's had a bunch of batted balls. He's looking really versatile. This is great. It's great because of Ogunjobi's contract situation, age, performance as well. And it's nice for the Steelers because even this morning, I was listening to a roundup of things while I was walking the dog, and Jerry Julak has been on Rich Eisen's show in the last few days, and he was saying a lot of defensive line's an issue. Shannon and I talked about this, basically a whole show on this issue. So yeah, I'm really happy to see that from Leal. I mean, the big guy, the one that, and I think he's going to just have a couple of big plays. It'll be like Nick Herbig last year. I still think Logan Lee is going to do some stuff on this team, and people are going to be surprised. I also thought even on just off training camp photos alone. I thought Jonathan Marshall looked really good coming into camp. And I'm on the Fehoko train. Like, if Liao makes it harder for Fehoko to make the 53, but man, like, I could see it. And if Liao plays lights off and lights out enough, it might not happen straight away, but you could even have a situation where if Larry O is gets some sort of injury, then suddenly he's on a pup list that can defer some of the salary cap, and then you can bring in, you can promote for Hoko. Like, that could happen. But I'm liking seeing this out of Liao. Like, the guy was a good player in college. Never should have been, like, the rumors of him being a top 10 pick were wild, but like, because he's a tweener as well. And I do think his natural position is more on a 4-3, but he's played really well. Benton talked about maturity and the discussions they've had through the offseason and stuff like that when they their rival interviews for training camp. It's great. Like, good on Liao is basically my feedback. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's good, Daredevil. What do you think about Last Golden? Well, so when I saw the article that I saw when it first came up was Steelers bring back linebacker that started in the playoff game, and I'm thinking, they really brought back Miles Jack. He seemed pretty done in the last year. I'm really happy about Golden coming back. I think that's really, really good for the Steelers. It makes me question what the plan is with Jeremiah Moon, because I think Moon could be really good. But Moon maybe hasn't flashed as much as they wanted to. Maybe it's a rocket up Nick Herbie and Moon as well. But it's really good safety net. And to have a veteran like that, even if he agrees to be veteran on the practice squad, you're going to see at least 4 games out of him, because then you got to put them onto the 53. But I'm all for it. Really am. All for it. I love it. Good stuff. Like, he's a good guy. There's a lot of career statistical production there that's very cheap. Perfect. What do you mean, Lenny and City? Oh, man, I'm so good that Mitch Trubisky's not here anymore. At least you still hear about Liao last year, so I never heard a thing about him Liao past few days. Yeah, they did talk about him. They did positional coach interviews halfway through training camp or into training camp. Maybe it was the end of mandatory mini camp before training camp. I remember it being something about him last year. And they were saying that he's got a bit of development to do. Still hadn't worked on a few things they wanted him to, etc. But I think that that was. I think it was Carl Dunbar that said that. I think that might have actually been Terrell Austin. But yeah, you're right. We don't hear it. It's good, but you know what? It's good to hear about him for the right reasons. Helps you minimize the speculation. So that's cool. What else? Oh yeah, Cam. So the other big name, and I know you're not trying to dive a little bit deeper into him, is fullback Jack Coletto. This is a guy that, like, you just keep hearing good stuff about. One of my concerns throughout the whole offseason has been Connor Haywood, and where would Connor Haywood fit within the Steelers offense with Arthur Smith. Cam Haywood talked about it with I saw the interview that he did with the Steelers Insider, a training camp insider one, not Steelers Insider one, the NFL Insider one that were at training camp today. I don't think Cam's done one with Kay Adams, or it hasn't popped up for me on YouTube yet. But he talked about his brother Knucklehead and getting used to the offense, and you've heard some different things the last few days. There's obviously a nice little relationship between Russell Wilson and Connor Haywood as well from the passing perspective. We've heard some interesting things there. Connor was there the first night for dinner with Cam and a couple of other blokes when Russell Wilson arrived and signed in Pittsburgh as well, so that's kind of interesting too. But there's room to have a Connor Haywood and Jack Coletto on this team. But there's probably not room to have a Miko Pruitt, Connor Haywood, and Jack Coletto on this team. I've said all along, my preference, if I was the GM or Mike Tomlin, Miko Pruitt would be on the practice squad as a veteran tight end there with Roddy Williams, and you've got Freemuth, Washington, Haywood there, and then like be open about a fourth tight end or fullback. But Coletto's a traditional fullback, and with Warren and Najee there, that is going to open up huge lanes, plus having Connor Haywood. So I kind of am liking Connor Haywood still being this hybrid, he's more of an H-back, traditional H-back, but, this hybrid between a tight end and a fullback, and then let a fullback be a fullback, particularly with the new kickoff rule as well. I really like that idea. We bring up inside linebacker. The revamping inside linebacker has been, mate, it's just terrific. Hopefully, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so I don't read too much into Holcomb's contract thing. I think the Steelers are keeping some money around, so when there's a big veteran cut, they can get him. I think they're still thinking about that. But yeah, I'm just hopeful for Holcomb. And look, we've got we've got three guys that can play all three down linebacker. Even if you're holding out Holcomb for next year, it's these sorts of guys you hear about it all the time when a team wins the Super Bowl. You go back through the roster. Oh, this guy went through all these struggles for a few years, and then he's just had this really good season. I know it. Keeping Holcomb on this roster for a long time is a good thing because Elandon Roberts, this could be his last year, but it's probably his last year playing like 60% of the snaps for the Steelers or more, or being capable of doing that. So I really like it. Sutton, well, the big thing that I heard out of the training camp last 24 hours was Chris Carter was sort of saying Beanie Bishop had a great session. There was a corner blitz where he smashed someone. You've heard a lot about Graham Arnold. They'll keep Sutton on on the roster, but Sutton could find it really hard to make it into this Steelers team. And so I think he'll be fine. I think he'll be in the practice squad of 53 through 2024, but 2025 might be a challenge for him. But that's going to be very dependent on how well Dante Jackson plays as well. Hey, Jane, how long is Roman Wilson supposed to be out? I heard it was like 2 to 3 weeks, but they'll ease him back through the but yeah, I said they'll ease him back into the season. So yeah, Janet, you might be right. Like you hear very different things, and then guys get ahead. I had heard though that he was but Tomlin said he was in a boot. It's not as serious as we first thought, even though it's in a lot of pain. And that he's in a boot right now as a precaution. But we'll see. When we've had people in a boot as a precaution, they're out for 6 weeks. So, I mean, Keanu Neal was coming back every second week last year and it never happened. So, kind of, let's see. But they won't rush him back, particularly with Van Jefferson and Calvin Austin playing well. And Quez Watkins looks good. But this is the thing. Beware about Quez Watkins. There's some people that are really high on Quez Watkins, and I understand why. Even Shannon's pretty high on Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins had a great preseason for Philadelphia that year when they played the Steelers and hasn't really done much for Philadelphia before he came into the Steelers. So I'd just be a little bit wary about that, but that's good in that, like, at least you're not having to give heaps of volume to other guys. Yeah, Gene, like this is true. Like this is absolutely the most positivity I've felt out of the players and coaches. It is. And I don't mean to be I don't want to be like a, Debbie Downer or like a, the mentor from Harry Potter about it and suck the energy out. When I talk about minimizing the speculation, I feel like some of the reports are it's the greatest camp ever all the time. And then you see the output on the field and I'm a bit like, well, the expectation doesn't meet reality. But with all that being said, I think the Steelers have filled like basically every hole on offense and defense. They've got a NFL head coach caliber guy in at offensive coordinator, not an absolute flop in Matt Canada. Like they've done all the things they needed to do. Fill linebacker, get a veteran cornerback that can still actually run. Dante Jackson is incredibly quick instead of Pat P from last year. They've gone and done things like made sure they brought back Golden. That is a team that wants to win. You bring back Golden, you make that move. They've got 2 guys that can play quarterback. And Russell Wilson was interviewed by both Kay Adams. No, he was interviewed. I haven't listened to the one with Kay. Listen to the one with the Steelers, with the NFL Insider training camp now, whatever wording they're using at the moment. And he talks about Fields and they know each other for a while. They both get it. They both get that the chances are one of them is going to spend some time out this season for like whether it's concussion, whether it's a soft tissue injury, whatever it is, or the ability to rest Russell Wilson toward like at certain points in the season when you're up in games and put on Fields. That is going to be really, really helpful for the Steelers. Teams rarely win a Super Bowl with just one quarterback now. They will have to rely on someone else. It's not like 42 quarterbacks started in the NFL last year, right? That's incredible amount. So my perspective on this really is that like having 2 guys that can do this is what is going to get the Steelers to win a playoff game, because it's either going to win you more games in your regular season record. It might even win you the division, and it's going to be really important if something happens in a playoff game. Or at least it gives someone, particularly with Fields' running ability, it gives something extra that the other team have to defensively scheme for. And anything you can do to make it harder for the other team before they even get to the game is an absolute win. So I love that. Chris Morgan sounds like I like that. Hey Tom. Yeah, okay, you got killing it. Keep hitting me with the questions. This is great. We talked a lot about the interviews naturally. Minimizing the depth and the speculation. I think I probably covered that one off. How do I feel about the kickoff? Whoa. And this was cool too. This came up in the interviews about Mike Tomlin working with EA on the kickoff for Madden, which is kind of interesting. Sip of coffee. Now the kickoff. I don't know what to think about it. Like, how to put this? I want the kickoff to be there. I don't want the kickoff to go. And so, like, I don't know, for the Australians out there or people that have seen it, there's rugby union and rugby league, and rugby league has scrums, which is more like just a huddle and they throw the ball in the back. Whereas in rugby union, they do proper scrums. I mean, if you're in America, most of what you will have seen is rugby union. That's where you have like the bigger World Cup and stuff like that. At the Olympics right now is the rugby sevens. That's the seven-a-side version. They only have like a 3-man scrum because there's only 7 people on the field. But I think the scrums in rugby league are embarrassing. I think rather you just have like 2 players have to step out of the field for a tackle or something like that, or what you call play in the NFL. So I didn't want to see the kickoff go down that route. That would have been really. I want to see it fully eliminated, or there's like the point of it, leaving and it becoming pointless is probably the best way to say it. This is why I need the coffee. I'm paying for the coffee. But yeah, I didn't want to become pointless. I'm open to seeing what can happen. I think in the preseason, what you'll see from teams off the kickoff will be very different to what you see in season. I think very few teams will actually show what they're going to try and do. They might practice 1 or 2 things, or they'll do it, but they won't fully show the extent of that play. Like, guys won't necessarily, do all the creative different things that they're doing. I think it's going to be really open. The thing for me it's interesting to see is the personnel that they employ to do this, because there's all sorts of talk about like how do you get defensive linemen involved? Do you get like big tight ends? Like a Darnell is going to be super for this. Fatanu is going to be super. Like the whole idea of incorporating the run sort of stuff. Having Fields back there, like as joke as it is with Fields catching the ball and passing, I think it was in the Madden promo to Jaylen Warren. Like it could happen. Again, Coletto, this is where he could find his way on the roster because, as I said a little bit earlier, I think he could be really helpful in this as well from a special teams perspective. Having fast guys can be really helpful. Might be a little bit why you're seeing a bit of Golden and Golden come back and the ability for Herbig to do some things there. Could be really big for Mark Robinson as well. It could be a way that he somehow scrapes the 53. Although if Holcomb's fit, I think that's going to be a struggle for him. They probably will keep him on the practice squad. Liao, I think Liao is a player that's going to fit this kickoff situation pretty well as well from a defensive, like defending that kickoff perspective. So I think I kind of want to just wait and see. It's funny, like I've got the college football game that played a little bit of that since it's come out between all the crazy things that have been going on, and like the kickoff, like I mean that's Madden versus what actually goes on in real life, but like it doesn't practically feel a lot of difference. But having Cordell Patterson back there is going to make a huge difference to this as well. Swiss Army knife, having a Calvin Austin back there, Swiss Army knife. So I also think a Dejan Edwards as well could be really interesting. We haven't heard much about him out of camp either. But that could be a really good thing. Sometimes you don't want to hear about it. Watch the haka, yeah. So like, yeah, it kind of like I don't know. I'm kind of interested just to see what it looks like, to be honest. Danny Smith's a veteran on special teams. Mike Tomlin's part of the coaching committee and I think the rules committee as well in the NFL. So they're getting involvement in what this looks like. Mike Tomlin being involved in it from a Madden perspective is interesting. Most people say, oh, he's a coach advising them on how they make the game. Think about coming back where they're saying, well, we heard this from this coach and we heard this from that coach. It's kind of cool. He's getting insights there. So yeah, it's a great question because I kind of, as I said, like I guess to surmise about it, like I kind of feel Yeah, I just kind of want to see what it is, but I'm just glad they didn't get rid of the kickoff. Um, he's going to need more gum. Yeah. Tomlin might have to step on the field and block a few guys. Oops, did I say that? No, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, Tony Smith. Hey, he took that hit last year. He bounced back all right. We didn't hear about that. So that's really, really cool as well. What else do I want to talk about? What's to come? Obviously, the preseason game is going to be huge. What I did think we could do is I wanted to bring up I haven't done this in a while, but I thought I could bring up the depth chart because I just thought it'd be good to sort of talk about how the Steelers are going in terms of the depth chart and like who's proving themselves. And so I'm going to bring that up. One sec. Now, this may be. Hang on. Let's go. I've got my proper one up. Make sure I've got that ready. I think this is the latest one I've edited. I should also say that Kyle Allen's had a really good training camp so far as well, which is kind of interesting. That's good for the Steelers. That's really, really good for the Steelers, particularly because it means we can see him in the preseason. But Nick Herbie destroyed him last year in the preseason when they played that game. Good. All right, so you guys have brought up Warren and Najee. That was something that's on my list as well. I've not broken it down by players. Yeah, so Warren and Najee is really cool. I think the hearing them about what they've done on backs versus backers is pretty cool because I wanted to see Najee get a little bit of a mean streak and a lot of people are like, oh, Najee, fifth year option. I've said all offseason, don't sign a fifth year option, extend his deal by 2 or 3 years going into the season. Still could happen. But I love the Steelers do want to break the rule with him about negotiating in season and do it in season when he's hit a certain point. But a fired up Najee is a good Najee. A fitter and faster and slightly slimmed down Najee is a good Najee, right? The combined rushing yards, I think it's hard on that because I think they're both. I would like to see them both be used in the short passing game, and so I think I'd like all-purpose yards. I think both of them can end up with all-purpose yards or let's just say yards from line of scrimmage rather than all-purpose because you might see them in the return game and stuff like that. I would say I think Najee's ceiling's probably between 14 and 1600, and I think Warren's ceiling is probably between 12 and 1400. But Warren's probably getting more pass yards based on what we saw last year, but it's a new offense, remember. If Najee can have the year they have with Ben throwing the short pass, it could be a whole different thing. But rushing yards specifically, yeah, Marketis is 1845. It's probably pretty close to what you're going to see. Just trying to think, if you got 9, yeah, between 8, I think anything between 18 and 2100 yards. I need to see a bit more in the preseason to see how they're playing within the offensive line. But again, I still think this offensive line fits a Jaylen Warren. I think Jaylen Warren I think he's going to have a longer future in Pittsburgh. I just get that feeling. I just do. I don't know. When Warren was kicking it off well, I was like, this guy's could just be the second best number 2 running back in the league. But Warren, everything you throw at him as a blocker, getting him to block, as a pass catcher, and as a runner, he is a top. There's a video on the channel from about a month ago. He's a top 3 to 4 best of all time undrafted running back through his first few seasons in the NFL. You go look at the stat, and go back and share that video. The stats are incredible on that. They get Warren, how they got him is just insane, absolutely insane. And that's why I was interesting about Dajan Edwards, and then having a few Steelers publications, or Steelers media publications, beat reporters wrote my video and turned it into an article as well. It was kind of funny. But yeah, from the perspective of Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, I think the 2000, I think it's realistic, Toddy. I think 2000 is quite realistic for sure. Definitely it could be pretty interesting. So I want to bring up the depth chart, as I mentioned, because I wanted to talk through this tab. Okay, cool. And I'm going to go bigger because there are a couple of guys I thought would be good to work through training camp with. So now obviously I don't have Coletto here. This was what I predicted the possible 53, probably about 6 weeks ago, like between camp and between training camp and the end of mandatory mini camp OTAs. So it has been pretty interesting. Now, Scotty Miller's not on this. It'll be kind of interesting to see what they do if they keep more tight ends, running backs, fullbacks, which they could do as well, remember. And I know that I've got Cordell Patterson listed here. I got panned for this in the comments last time I had it. But ultimately, he could be running back. Oh, sorry, I actually already had him at wide receiver 2 here. That is because I wanted to see who was emerging as the actual wide receiver 2. And he has played wide receiver. So, but anyway, I got panned for that in the comments. So we'll just keep that what it is. Cool. So I think it's kind of interesting in terms of, we talked about Kyle Allen, we talked about Justin Fields, we talked about Russell Wilson. We've talked a lot about the tight ends as well. Darnell Washington just seems to be having a really good offseason. Hopefully it's a second-year jump for him. Pat Freeman, we've heard good things at the start of camp. We think nothing less because that is who he is. And also, you've actually got a proper offensive coordinator who wants to use a tight end. And you also have proper quarterbacks who also know the value in using a tight end. I still don't think that there's anything here that's an issue from the offensive line. Yes, Mason McCormick should be in there as well. But, I mean, we know that he's a guy that's going to develop. It's probably not his year to be taking a lot of starting snaps, but he's a guy that you're just going to develop and put you through. So that's kind of cool. But I think with this situation, I do think there's a lot of linemen here. And so I think Dan Moore or Nate Herbig, I do still think that there's something there that could happen with those blokes. I've got a couple of questions. All right, so I'm going to pause for those. What's up with the preseason success and failure? Not. It is weird. Hey, Toddy. I think, though, it's less about what you show necessarily, although the Steelers showed a lot of vanilla stuff. I think it's about what other teams show. And how to put this? If I sum up all the comments that I've made in totality, to use Mike Tomlin word, in totality, over the last 3 years since it went from 4 games to 3 games, I haven't really understood, particularly with Pickett being drafted in there. I don't think the Steelers have handled the 3-game preseason well, to be honest. I think they were much better at handling the 4-game preseason and managing the snaps between different guys. That also helps when you got a veteran quarterback like Ben. So I think this preseason, it's kind of while I'm being really measured on what I hear out of camp, because from my perspective, and it goes back to this minimalizing the speculation part, I want to see what it is. I don't want to hear something from one camp session and decide that that's the guy. I'm very confident Beanie Bishop's on the 53, right? I might stop sharing for a sec while we talk about this. But yeah, I'm very confident Beanie Bishop's on the 53. I'm confident that Deshaun Elliott is going to be an absolute star player that not enough people are talking about this season. But going back to your correlation question, yeah, I don't know if the Steelers have handled the 4 games well. I think a lot of this goes back to the whole Canada offense piece and maybe thinking what we showed in preseason was good enough and not being more innovative, or he's just not capable of being more innovative. That could be part of it. But yeah, it is interesting across the league that it doesn't correlate. But maybe it gives players a false sense of security. I don't want to say that people are still as complacent, because I don't think so. I don't think when you win the amount of games that you sort of shouldn't, that's complacent. Some people say Tomlin they lose games they should, like the whole Patriots Arizona thing last year. A lot of that is I don't think they were ready for Kenny Pickett to get it, to be injured. So and Trubisky's not a quality backup quarterback anymore. And they refused to go to Mason Rudolph when they should have earlier. So that's kind of where it is. But yeah, it's still weird. It's still really weird. But yeah, you know what though? Again, last year, and again, this is why I'm trying to be realistic this year, is that last year we won 3 games, and I kept thinking to myself, I kept saying, they did look good. The Steelers did genuinely look good, but I had one in the back of my mind. I'm like, we're not winning the Super Bowl because we didn't win it. We didn't, because we won all our preseason games. So anyway, So do we hope? Actually, good question though. Back to you guys. Do we hope for 2-1 in the preseason? Like, how do we react to that? Jedevil says, which one of our current receivers solidified himself as wide receiver 2? Depends. I'll ask you these questions and then ask me the question again. Like through the preseason or by like mid-season? Because I think the answer is different. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Yes, please hit that sub button. Please hit that like button if you're here, if you scroll to here. If you're listening live, if you're listening on replay, please hit that like, please hit that sub button. We will be upping the content back to usual standards. So yeah. I won't necessarily bring up the depth chart again, but I wanted to talk about Dante Jackson. I've been so high on Dante Jackson, though long-time listeners know that I've been talking about him for years. And to be able to see him, hear good reports about him, to see him fit in, he could be if he plays to his potential, this guy literally could be the best second cornerback, or one of the best second cornerbacks, like number 2s in the league. The speed to go with Porter Jr. is going to be awesome. Well, I'm really excited to see those two guys. Really, really excited to see that. One player that I wanted to talk about that's really disappointed that he's injured, more so even than Roman Wilson, is Dean Lowry. I was really hopeful for Dean Lowry to prove to everyone in this preseason and through camp that he could be like a Wormley 2.0, but better. And so I'm really disappointed that he's going through this injury situation. I mean, I haven't heard an update since they put him on the PUP list, but hopefully he comes back soon. I don't think they'll remove him because of the questions that still sort of remain on the Steelers defensive line. And that's a good thing because I'm really quite high on him, but it will be interesting to see. One guy that you're not hearing a lot out of, and Shannon talks about him a bit being probably up in terms of possibly his Steelers time, is DeMonte Casey. So that'll be interesting to see how the Steelers use him in the preseason, slotting in around Deshaun Elliott, slotting in around Ryan Watts, slotting in around Corey Trice, some of these different things. So that's going to be interesting. We should talk about Patrick Queen. So Marky D from Still Nation Australia, those that don't know, but I think everyone does. He's killed it this offseason with the videos on, Patrick Queen and the grass is green. I've loved every single one of them. And so it is interesting to see with Queen, like Mike Tomlin said with Kay Adams and with the Steelers, not the Steelers, I kept saying that, with the NFL Insider streaming live from Steelers training camp videos. He talked about Patrick Queen and like that guy being a Steeler. Mike Tomlin was asked a question. Do you like more that he's now a Steeler or that he's not a Raven? And Mike Tomlin actually gave an answer that I completely disagree with. He said probably that he's not a Raven. Bullcrap. We want Patrick Queen on this Steelers team rather than any other team. Therefore, you're just happier that he's finally a Steeler. Anyway, but Patrick Queen's wearing the green dot, and there's been a lot of talk about that. And Shannon and I talked a lot about that early on about like, would it make sense for Patrick Queen to wear the green dot? Is it, giving a lot to him? Peyton Wilson, can read the play. Elaine Roberts can wear the green dot. I'm not lost in who is wearing the green dot right now. Mike Tomlin calls Patrick Queen the quarterback of the defense, and that's what the green dot will be, and that's important. TJ Watts talked about how he hated having it. An outside linebacker in a 3-4 should not have the green dot. Absolutely not. You're asking too much of them. They need to be singularly focused on cutting the runner in the backfield to tackle for a loss or sacking the quarterback. Pure and simple. Maybe they thought he'd play a bit more inside. I don't think so. In terms of like giving him the green dot. Obviously, Minkah Fitzpatrick is also like the quarterback of the defense, but you've got to let Minkah read the play, not having to marshal everyone else around all the time, particularly because he's going to do that in the secondary. So again, kind of happy he's not wearing the green dot. I think the best thing is having 3 guys that can wear the green dot, which is what the Steelers are basically building themselves to do. Just because if Patrick Queen doesn't have the green dot, that doesn't mean he's not the quarterback of this defense. His veteran leadership, his skill, his speed on this as well are going to ensure that he is that linchpin between Minkah, he's there in the second line of the defense, and then Cam Hayward and TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. I am so cool with like what he's going to be able to do. I also love that even though we had a tough backs on backers with Najee situation when they were doing the drill, he stuffed him in the backfield with a 5-yard loss. I think that was really cool. And Jedevil, you exactly said it before I could get there. Minka being Minka. Let Minka be Minka. I think I've literally got a video about that on the channel from about 6 weeks ago. It's literally with that title. It's about that, but I just trying to remember the title. But yeah, make Minka again. Make Minka great again. Like I can't get over the stupidity and like that I feel about like him basically playing linebacker. And I've had comments here from people on this on the channel, and I understand the opinion of he's the best player on the defense. He's versatile. You've got to get him to do what you got to get him to do in the season. But the Steelers have had chances to not have to do this. Again, don't make him play strong safety, which is why I'm so thrilled about Deshaun Elliott. Deshaun Elliott is one of my favorite pickups this offseason. I can't keep saying it enough. Rome if you want to. Roam around. Exactly. Like, I'm happy with him doing what he's doing. I just feel like he's been forced. Like, Minka should not be making 100+ tackles, right? Like, that's not fair on Minka. Solo 100+ solo tackles. That's just insane. That's not good at all. Keep hitting me with the questions because we'll probably go about 10 more minutes. Then I'll finish up, get some eat and stuff like that. But Beanie Bishop, we talked about him. We've talked about almost everyone I wanted to get through on today's show really quick. It was kind of good. Oh, we haven't talked about Spencer Anderson. I've heard some good things. I've seen some good things. I know he was involved in a bit of the fight that went on, the first fight that went on. It's interesting, Mike Tomlin's perspective on this. He's not a fan of the fighting. I want to hear a bit more. I want to see a bit more out of Spencer Anderson. So it's going to be a really, we talked about the preseason games before. I think the Spencer Anderson needs to have a really big preseason. I think it's going to be really important. 30 Red and Queen. Tyler Matakevich is not going to play much linebacker. I know you haven't laughed yet, but like everyone else out there, I saw some interesting comments when we were saying like this guy is like solidifying the Steelers linebacker room. No, he's barely played much linebacker over the last few years in the Bills. That's kind of done there. I'd rather see Killebrew at strong safety. Tyler Matakevich, like put it this way, they had huge linebacker problems last year in terms of injuries, like the Steelers did, and the Bills got guys off the couch before they let Matakevich play. Great special teams captain along with Killebrew. I mean, the Steelers are arming up in this, and he's a really good player to have with the new kickoff rule. Going back to the kickoff question. Particularly because of how much it's going to be like a run set, and he does come from that linebacker heritage. So, yeah, I'm loving having him back. I think it's fantastic. And plus, a guy that's proven and known. And that's why I think the Steelers squad is different than any other year and why I'm positive. Going back to, I think we heard the positive discussion in the comments. I think that was, Gene that said it, is because the Steelers are bringing back the veteran guys. They get them in their cheek. They want to be around it. They want to be part of this culture. They believe in it. But the Steelers have gone out and gotten key young guys, like the best plug-and-play center in the draft, one of the best overall offensive linemen in the draft, the most agile offensive lineman in the draft from a first-rounder perspective. Got those two blokes. There's only one other bloke that I would have possibly liked to see instead, and that's Graham Barton. Although I did like some of the other right tackle guys, I think for time, and no matter what we say, Fatanu will not finish his career at right tackle. He'll finish his career at guard. But anyway, that's one for us to see how that goes over the years to come. But the Steelers have gone out and got these veteran guys, and I think it's going to be huge for this team. They've really plugged every hole apart from defensive line, and with Leal stepping up, perhaps they've already got that answer on the roster. So, yeah, I'm really happy about that for sure. So now it's kind of, I feel like I guess my perspective on where we're at right now in terms of what's to come. Preseason is going to be huge in terms of the preseason games is going to be huge for this team. But it's all the guys that are trying to make the final 5 to 10 spots on the roster and fight for the practice squad. And that's the thing. The last few years, I feel like with the practice squad, apart from a couple of the veteran guys, the young guys, it's been such a roll of the dice. I actually feel like the practice squad this year is going to be made up with people that could legitimately and would be comfortable with them playing 4 to 5 games throughout the year if they have to come into it. So, yeah. Ayuk, I don't think so. I still don't think so. I think Ayuk goes somewhere else and maybe the Steelers pick up whoever else goes. I still think the Terry McLaurin from the Commanders situation. I actually think could see Ayuk going to Seahawks and then making DK Metcalf available. but that would really, that would really like disenfranchise George Pickens. But you're probably joking, but I wanted to cover Ayuk because I just keep seeing Ayuk to the Steelers, Ayuk to the Steelers, and no. That's an interesting question, Toddy. I wish more people flew it. There's actually a lot of rules around a flag pole, because you pretty much, like, to fly one properly, you'd have to do it on a flagpole. It gets a bit political. I don't. A lot of Australians will fly flags. We've got a lot of the whole Palestine-Israel thing that happens. It's happening a lot in the US. That's happening a lot here. There's a lot of that sort of stuff. Although there's a lot of flying of one flag over the other, which is quite juxtaposing, I think, at times. But yeah, when I get a house one day, I really want a flagpole. There are also certain rules about like official flags and stuff like that. But yeah, I would like to see more of it. It's funny, Australians roll it out from like when it comes to a sporting event like the Olympics, and then there's like even on National Day, people don't wave it as much. But I wish more people did. But in my suburb, in the area of Sydney that I live in, you see a lot more flags than you do elsewhere. It's much more of a kind of a patriotic area in that respect. So yeah, it's a good question though. What I want one day is when I get a house, when we get a house with a front lawn, sort of townhouse. I want to get the blow up. You know how you guys have the big blow up inflatable, like NFL, like big chunky dudes. I love seeing them on the lawns in America when I've been in like different cities before NFL games. I think that's pretty cool. I'd love to get one of them. But yeah. Oh, actually on that. So obviously I'm coming to Pittsburgh for Steelers Chargers game. I am going to put something out for the subs. I'm going to put a post out. So if you're not a sub, hit that sub button so you can see the community post. Put a post out with some information on like how we're going to tee up something while I'm there. Super excited to do that, whether it's pre-post game as well. Definitely going to be hitting up some bars after that game. Hopefully, toasting to a Steelers win. In and around the Pittsburgh Stadium. So we are going to have some information on that. I've been thinking about that for a little while, doing some things in the background on that. So I should have some more information about that probably Monday, Tuesday. I've got Monday, Tuesday off. So I'm going to put something out there. Would love to meet up with as many of you as possible, even those that are not going to the game as well. That would be really cool. But like, we have rules around flag etiquette. Well, yeah, like yours aren't allowed to touch the floor. I think that should be the same in Australia. Australia also has different flags. So we have our like blue, like we have a flag that is predominantly blue with the Union Jack from England and then the Southern Cross on it, which is a star constellation in Australia. But there's actually a red version, which was Australia's flag at the start. When we first started, it was the one we used a bit more. It's called the Red Ensign version. It's kind of cool. I really quite like it. So yeah, but it's obviously I love the actual flag that we have. There's a lot of people talking about when to change that. I love the flag we have. I think I love seeing it. I've seen it on Aussie Sport, and yeah, go Australia. Like we're killing it at the Olympics. If the Olympics was based per capita, we'd be the number one country in the world. So yeah, that's cool. Sorry. But yeah, I think that's like pretty much everything in terms of Steelers camp right now. I guess my big thing will stay with like minimalizing the speculation. Apologies for my dog squeaking very loudly in the background. He's got this dinosaur toy that he loves, and he just stands there and squeaks it till it stops, or he gets bored. Yeah, I think minimalizing the speculation is the thing that you've got to be thinking about everything you hear through preseason, and it's both. If you're hearing something out of training camp, take it with a grain of salt. From Mike Tomlin's Steelers' perspective, are they getting what they want out of training camp? That's the title of this show. Yes, if they can minimize the speculation. And I think they're doing that, like, or minimize, both work in this sense. But my perspective is that we need to now do that with a number of positions. So like we talked about Leal. Leal needs to then now prove it in these preseason games that he's genuinely taken a leap. And not in one game, but in all three, no matter what's asked of him. We need to see that from, these wide receiver 2 candidates. We need to see that from your Beanie Bishops or even your Graham Arnolds, who you get hearing a lot out of camp. You just see that from the running. I think the running back, fullback, tight end mixture of how many players in what position is still not really locked down. So these are kind of all the things that need to be done. And yeah, Toddy, technically here that's the same thing. There used to be you could go to your local member of parliament, which is like your Senate, your Congress, and get them. And now you got to pay for those ones, so people get them elsewhere. It's kind of complicated, but it was really cool. Like I once worked in one of those offices early in my career, and we had I think it was the local council area with like the mayor works out of, and they had a massive flag because they had a big tall building. And I mean, I kid you not, the thing was the size of a wall of a bedroom. It was big. It was much bigger than that, actually. And I remember we got this thing and it arrived in this big, massive bag. And we actually, like, usually with the flags, we'd unfold them and check them for defects before we'd issue them to a local organization. And this one, we couldn't do it because it was too big. And so it was quite funny. There was a big risk in when they put it up there. If it was like had a hole in it, everyone was going to laugh, and it was going to be in the local papers. And it's a very funny situation. Great question on flags. I love flags. Bishop is the Hilton. Oh man, Bishop's. Oh, I can't wait to see this guy. This guy is going to be terrific for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. Hopefully, there's carryover exactly. We just got to hope they don't win every. Maybe they draw. Maybe they can draw one of the games, and then they're like undefeated, but they've not lost a game, but they didn't win every preseason game. Oh yeah, I mean, but the thing about Beanie is, I think he's shorter, but there's probably more weight to him. I reckon he hits just as hard, and he's faster than Hilton. So Hilton on I don't want to sound steroids because I don't want to do steroids, but Hilton with a turbo boost or a bit of NOS would be like excellent. But hey, that's gonna wrap up this show. I've had a extreme amount of fun talking to you guys. I've missed doing the lives. We will get back to them. We'll get more regular with them. I might even try and do a live for you guys on Monday evening, Tuesday lunchtime. I'll see how I go. Possibly might be able to do one on, even tomorrow actually. But one of those days I'll try and do another live for you guys as well. Talking all things. We'll get back to the content. But yeah, really excited, pumped for the season. Don't, even though for those that stuck out there to the end of the show, just because I said that, we got to minimize the speculation and don't believe everything you're hearing doesn't mean I'm not pumped. I'm so pumped. I'm just trying to be like that realistic fan at the same time. Do I still think this team's double digits? Absolutely. Do I still think they can fight the division? Absolutely. Do I think they're going to win a playoff game? Absolutely. But how they get there is not necessarily everything we hear in the first week of camp. But really excited to see what's been happening. I would have been really concerned if Fields hadn't stepped up to the plate, but it sounds like he's just progressing and improving all the time, and that's awesome. The young guys are doing really, really well. We're hearing all good things. Touch wood, the Steelers haven't had that many injury situations, really. And Russ sounds like it's been more management. If it was in season, he probably wouldn't have missed much time, if at all. So these are all really, really good things. But with that, we're going to close out the show. Stay tuned, more from us. Marketing, I will come back to you and get Boxer back on my phone. I've had issues with the actual app as well. But as always, go Steelers.